The night began like any other, but something in the air felt heavier than usual. My father and I were driving back from my aunt's place, somewhere in the quiet outskirts of Oregon. The roads were lined with towering pine trees, their branches bending slightly under the weight of the night fog. I remember glancing at the clock on the dashboard, 11:47 p.m. The old pickup truck hummed steadily beneath us, headlights cutting thin lines through the mist. Dad, whose name is Robert, had always been a man of calm nerves. Even in the eeriest of situations, he could find logic. But that night, even he seemed quieter than usual. Maybe it was the fog, maybe it was the silence, but there was a stillness I couldn't shake. Emily, you awake back there? He asked, his eyes flicking toward the rearview mirror. Yeah, just tired, I mumbled. I was sitting in the passenger seat, hugging my jacket close. The heater was running, but a chill seemed to seep through the vents anyway. He chuckled softly. Next time we'll leave before dark. These roads feel like ghost territory at night. I smiled faintly, but his words echoed in my mind longer than they should have. Ghost territory. Little did I know, that was exactly what we were driving through. We turned onto County Road 19, a back route that saved us nearly 30 minutes. Dad had taken it before, but not in years. The pavement was cracked, overgrown on both sides, and the reflective signs had long faded. The trees formed an arch overhead, making it feel like we were driving through a tunnel of branches. I watched the trees blur by, then blinked as I noticed something odd, shapes, maybe people, standing still between the trunks. I straightened up, heart picking up speed. Dad, slow down for a second. He did, brows furrowing. What is it? I pointed toward the right side of the road. I thought I saw someone. Over there, near that fence. We both stared, but the fog thickened again, swallowing everything. Dad sighed. Probably a deer. They wander close this time of night. But I wasn't sure. The shape hadn't moved like an animal, it had been standing. Watching. The truck rattled slightly as we drove on. A few minutes later, the radio crackled and went silent. Dad turned the knob, but it stayed dead. Then the headlights flickered. Just for a moment, but long enough to make both of us tense. Electrical issue, Dad muttered. Old truck's acting up again. But when we came around the next bend, the engine coughed once, twice, and died. The truck rolled to a stop in the middle of the road, the lights dimming completely. I sat frozen. The sound of the forest rushed in, the soft hiss of wind, distant creaks of wood. Dad exhaled through his nose and reached for the keys again. It's fine, I'll check under the hood. Don't get out, okay. He stepped out, the cold air flooding in. I watched him disappear in front of the truck, his shadow stretching in the headlight glow. I tried not to look outside, but something moved in the fog, a flicker near the tree line. It wasn't my imagination. Then, faintly, I heard something that made my heart pound. A whisper, not words, exactly, just a sound like someone trying to speak through static. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. Dad, I called softly. No answer. The fog thickened again, pressing against the glass. I reached for the door handle, hesitating before opening it. The air outside felt heavier, colder than it should have. My breath came out in visible clouds as I circled toward the front. Dad, I said again, louder this time. Then I saw him, kneeling by the engine, but not alone. A shadow stood a few feet away, faint, like smoke shaped into a person. I blinked, and it was gone. Dad turned at the sound of my gasp. What are you doing out? Here, I told you to stay inside. There was someone, right there, I said, pointing toward the trees. He followed my gaze, frowning. Nobody there. He paused, then sighed. Let's give it a few minutes. Battery might have drained. We waited by the truck, surrounded by a silence so deep it made my ears ring. Then, again, the whispering. This time, it was clearer. My name, Emily. My blood turned cold. I glanced at Dad, but he looked puzzled, not scared. You heard that, right? I asked. Heard what? He said slowly. The voice came again, softer now. Emily, come back. I think someone's in the woods, I whispered. Dad's hand tightened on the flashlight. Stay close. We walked to the edge of the road. The beam cut through the fog, catching glimpses of tree bark, broken branches, and, there. A figure, a woman in white, standing still about 20 feet ahead. I froze. Dad's breath hitched. Ma'am, are you okay? He called out. She didn't move, didn't respond. Her hair hung long and dark, and her outline shimmered faintly, like a reflection on water. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she was gone. The light passed over empty air. Dad and I stood there in disbelief. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. Get in the truck, Dad said quietly. His voice carried a tone I'd never heard before, fear. We climbed back in, but the engine refused to start. The radio flicked on by itself, white noise flooding the cabin. Then, just for a second, a woman's voice through the static. Please, help me. I clapped my hands over my ears. Dad smacked the radio off, and silence returned. What is happening? I whispered. He didn't answer right away. There's a story about this road, he finally said. Back in the 70s, there was a woman who disappeared after her car broke down near here. They never found her body. My skin prickled. You think that's her? I don't know, he said. But we're not staying to find out. He stepped out again, popped the hood once more, and somehow, miraculously, the engine roared back to life. We didn't speak as we drove, the fog parting slowly. But as we passed the next mile marker, I glanced at the mirror, and saw her again. Standing in the middle of the road behind us. Still, watching. I squeezed my eyes shut, and when I opened them, she was gone. We reached home just past 1 a.m. The house lights felt unreal after that drive. Mom met us at the door, worried. You both look like you've seen a ghost, she said with a half smile. Neither of us laughed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, pale face, dark eyes, the fog curling around her like smoke. The voice lingered in my mind. Come back. The next morning, Dad found something odd on the truck. Handprints, faint, as if pressed in dust, on the passenger door. Too small to be his. Too delicate. He didn't tell Mom. He just wiped them away, then told me, we won't take that road again. Weeks passed. Life went on. But sometimes, when the weather turns foggy and the night feels too still, I swear I can hear that whisper again. Emily, come back. Maybe she wasn't warning us. Maybe she was asking for help. Whatever she was, she changed something in both of us. Dad still avoids driving after dark, and I never sit by a window when it rains. Because I know, somewhere out there, between the trees and the mist, that lost soul is still walking that old road, waiting for someone to see her again. And when they do, I hope they remember to keep driving. Because not every shadow wants to hurt you. Some just want to be remembered.